In today's tutorial, we want to consider types of mapping, which are one-to-one mapping, many-to-one mapping, onto mapping, one-to-one onto mapping, many-to-one onto mapping, into mapping, one-to-one into mapping, many-to-one into mapping. One-to-one mapping. In one-to-one mapping, different elements in the domain, this domain also can be called input, have different elements in the range. Our range also can be called codomain or output. Now let us consider example of one-to-one mapping. Now our domain is 5, 7, 8. Our range is 1, 2, 3. Now 5 is mapped with 1 and 7 is mapped with 2, 8 is mapped with 3. This example is one-to-one mapping because each element in the domain has different elements in the range, so it is one-to-one mapping. Now let us consider an example that is not one-to-one mapping. Let us represent our domain with D here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Our range, let us represent it with R. We have A, B, C, D, and 1 is mapped with A, 2 is mapped with B, 3 is mapped with C, and 4 is also mapped with C. And this one is not one-to-one mapping because 2 elements in the domain are mapped with the same element in the range, so it is not one-to-one mapping. Many-to-one mapping. If 2 or more different elements of the domain have the same elements in the range, is called many-to-one mapping. Let us consider this example. Our domain is our elements in domain are A, B, C, D. Our range, we represent with our elements in range are 1, 2, 3, and A is mapped with 1, B is mapped with 2, C is mapped with 3, and D is mapped with 1. You can see that 2 elements in the domain A and D are mapped with 1 element in the range, which is 1. So this one is many-to-one mapping. Onto mapping. It is a type of mapping where every element in the range is mapped to by at least 1 element from the domain. No element in the range is left out or unmapped. Let us consider example of this onto mapping. our domain and the elements of our domain are A, B, C, D. And our range and the elements of our range are 1, 2, 3, 4. A is mapped with 1. B is mapped with 4. C is mapped with 2. And D is mapped with 3. And this is onto mapping because there's no element in our range that is not mapped with at least a single element in the domain. So this one is onto mapping. Let us consider another example that is not onto mapping. Our D, let us have 1, 2, 3, 4. And our range here, let us have 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 is mapped with 5. 2 is mapped with 6. 3 is mapped with 8. And 4 also is mapped with 8. And this one is not onto mapping because there is a element in the range that is not mapped with any element in the domain. This example is not onto mapping. One-to-one onto mapping. It is a mapping which is both one-to-one and onto. Let us consider this example. Our domain is 1, 2, 3, 4. Our range is A, B, C, D. Now 1 is mapped with A, 2 is mapped with B, 3 is mapped with C, and 4 is mapped with D. This example is one-to-one onto mapping. It is one-to-one mapping because every element in the domain is mapped with different elements in the range. So it is one-to-one. And it is onto mapping because there's no element in the range that is not at least mapped with a single element in the domain. So it is one-to-one onto mapping. Let us consider another example that is not one-to-one onto mapping. Our domain here, let us say our domain is A, B, C, D. And our range, let's say our range is 11, 12, 13, 14. A is mapped with 11, B is mapped with 12, C is mapped with 13, and D also is mapped with 13. And this one now, it is not one-to-one mapping because C and D are mapped with 13 in the range. And also it is not onto mapping because there is element in the range that is not mapped with any element in the domain. So this example is not one-to-one onto mapping. Many-to-one onto mapping. A mapping which is both many-to-one and onto. Let us consider this example for better understanding. Our domain D is 1, 2, 3, 4, and our range R is A, B, C, and our mapping is 1 is mapped with A, 2 is mapped with A, 3 is mapped with B, and 4 is mapped with C. And this one now, it is many to one. It is many to one because two elements in the domain are mapped with one element in the range, and it is onto because there's no element in the range that is not associated with any element in the domain. So this example, it is many to one onto mapping. Into mapping, a mapping in which there is at least one element in the range which is not associated with any element in the domain. Let us consider this example. Our domain is 1, 2, 3, 4. Our range is 5, 7, 8, 9. Now 1 is mapped with 5, 2 is mapped with 7, 3 is mapped with 8, and 4 is also mapped with 8. So this example is into mapping because there is element in the range that is not associated with any element in the domain. One to one into mapping, a mapping which is both one to one and into. Let us consider this example. Our domain here is 1, 2, 3, 4. Our range is A, B, C, D, E. 1 is mapped with A, 2 is mapped with B, 3 is mapped with C, and 4 is mapped with D. This is one-to-one mapping because every element in the domain is mapped with different elements in the range, and it is into because there is an element in the range that is not associated with any elements in the domain. So it is one-to-one into mapping. Many to one into mapping, a mapping which is both many to one and into. Let us consider this example. Our domain here is A, B, C. Our range is 1, 2, 3. A is mapped with 1, B is mapped with 2, and C is mapped with 2. This example is many to one because there is two elements in the domain that are mapped with a single element in the range, and also it is into mapping because there is element in the range that is not associated with any element in the domain. So it is many to one into mapping.